Answer like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Holy Madonna me. Those of you out there, that's swearing in Italian. Jose, Madonna me. Okay. Angelo, let's bring him up. The man, the myth, the legend, the owner of the Bible. Madonna me is kind of like swearing in Italian to all the folks out there. Angelo, thank you so much, my friend.
I'm sorry. First of all, I am as computer illiterate as anyone you'll ever see in your life. And I was also waylaid because I was rolling 100 meatballs with my wife. See, in retirement now, she gives me the big blob of meat, and then I have to roll them up. And I had to do like 100 of these things. And I said, you know, maybe I should go back to radio. This is terrible.
Hold on. Let me ask you this. Hold on. Do you use Italian bread in the meatball?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh.
So wait, so you get the Italian bread, you got the parsley, you got the one egg, you got, okay, you've got the cheese you put in there, you roll them up, you fry them, then what you do is you dump them in the sauce. See, what people don't get, Olive Garden doesn't do that, okay? That's not an Italian restaurant. What he's doing right now with gabardines and spaghetti, making the sauce, that to me is exactly. Angelo, that actually sounds pretty inviting there, man. You must have your own recipe.
It's got a couple of cheeses in there. It's got beef. It's got veal. It's got pork. It's a recipe literally from the old country, and it is a beautiful. That's a spicy meatball.
Okay, with all that saying there, you got the right recipe. Do the Eagles have the right recipe in 2024 to go to the NFC Championship game?
I just heard you saying how one of these moron media people said Nick's having a great camp. What the hell? You know why he's having a great camp? I know why the offenses look good. I saw what the defense did last year. Oh, yeah. I think I could drive them down for a TD in the final minutes myself. No, yeah, come on. Yeah, this is the thing. It's all now that I'm out of it and not producing my own level of manure before the first game. My God, it's all useless stuff. Useless. We don't know how they look until they play another team in a real game. And that's not going to happen until they get to Brazil. So give me a break. None of this is of any significance. I told you the only thing you need to watch for in the preseason is whether Sirianni, in the midst of his brilliant camp, will actually try to play some starters in the preseason to see if they're off the schneid from losing 6 out of 7. That's what you got to see. And if he doesn't, then he's still taking orders from the boys upstairs.
Let me ask you something here about Vic Fangio. Do you think that that's going to be a problem between the owner and the general manager? I mean, and here's where I'm going with this, Angelo. When you're asking him, hey, you know that move that Howie made for Bryce Huff? He had a guy ain't ready. He's not a 3-down lineman. He can't play. He struggles tackling. He struggles covering. And I'm going, you spent $18 million on the guy. What do you mean he's struggling? And when you're hearing him go, Nakobe Dean's not getting, that's a 3rd rounder. You know how they are in that organization. If Howie puts the equity in drafting, you're playing that guy. This looks like a Jim Johnson type guy. Could there be conflict with this?
Oh, I think there already is. I read something today from Fangio that was definitely not out of the playbook of general manager Howie Roseman. Fangio said, you can't have an effective defense if you don't have good inside linebackers, right? Howie Roseman hasn't given a damn about linebackers in 10 years. And if this is what the defensive coordinator is saying, he's not in sync with what the thinking has been philosophically of the people creating that roster. And you're seeing it. And by the way, Fangio is right. You need linebackers. You can't ignore that position because you see what happens. Tight ends are wide open. Running backs are running amok out of the backfield on pass routes. You can't do it that way. But Howie's never believed that Fangio does. And here's the other thing. Fangio's been around. Fangio's not going to listen to that crap if things aren't going right. He is going to get off the basic, the yes man philosophy that this Eagles organization demands. There's going to be an issue there for sure. For sure.
Angelo, get what he said yesterday or today, this morning in the press conference. They asked him, hey, you're going to be calling games from the booth. He goes, yeah. And all position coaches will be on the sidelines. And someone goes, why? He goes, well, because I don't want somebody telling me what they saw. I want to see it. And I'll make the call and I'll translate it to the D-line coach, the secondary coach, the LB coach. Nobody's going to tell me what I'm looking at, and I'm going to make the call. And I went, oh, wait a minute here. That's an organization by committee. That's not something you have one head rooster in the hen house that's making all that stuff like that. That's why, again, I mean, I can't wait to see that dynamic and how that works out. Now, maybe Vic is going to have more autonomy than Kellen is going to have when it comes to running that side of the ball. But boy, it is evident. It's evident, Angelo, that guy is running his own ship over there.
Yeah. Now there's one thing I want to push back on that you said. Please do not use Vic Fangio's name in the same sentence as Jim Johnson. Vic Fangio was in Miami for 1 year, and when he said he wanted to leave to come to Philly, they got him a limo. Said, hurry up, we'll get you there right away. I'm surprised they didn't charter a flight for him. They were not dying to keep Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio, in his wildest imagination, is not close to Jim Johnson. Jim Johnson was a great defensive coordinator.
Yes, he was.
Vic Fangio, the thing is, this mediocre coordinator is going to be pushing back at these guys, Roseman and Lurie, who think they invented football. This is not a healthy situation.
Can you please tell me, if you were still doing Morning Drive on WIP, what would be the first question that you would ask? And I'm going to give you three guys.
Yeah.
What would be the one question and your first question to ask Nick Sirianni?
Nick Sirianni. Nick, did you basically sell the farm to hold your job? Did you basically tell your bosses, I'll do whatever you need me to do? And my follow-up question would be, Nick, you're not coaching the offense. You're not coaching the defense. You're not coaching the special teams. What the hell are you actually in charge of? And don't tell me you're a CEO, because from what my read of this is, if the offensive coordinator wants to do something, he's going to do it. Defensive coordinator, he's definitely going to do it. You don't actually have the power to overrule them, do you? And then if he says he does, I'll go, well, then how come you couldn't figure out what the hell happened last year in the final 7 games? Why would we as a fan base think you have now figured it out if you still have this power? No, I would literally attempt to get him to admit that he at least traded some power to save his own neck, because he did. And it's your job as an interviewer to get the question put together right so he acknowledges it. I don't know if he would, but I would try.
What would be the first question you would ask Howie Roseman?
Right. Howie, if Vic Fangio or Kellen Moore are doing something that they believe in, but you don't, how are you going to work that out? Notice there, I've kept Sirianni completely out of the equation because he doesn't have any power. I would go, what are you going to do? Because the guys before, Steichen and Gannon, or the losers they had last year, they didn't have any gravitas to push back. They had to do that what they were told. But these guys were brought in to save this administration, to save Sirianni. What if the guys upstairs don't agree? Don't you want to know how that plays out? Because that's going to happen sometime in the course of the year. In the course of the year, either Fangio's philosophy on linebackers doesn't jive with what happens with Roseman. Somewhere along the way, there's going to be a disagreement and somebody's going to put their foot down. Who's going to do that? Roseman? Lurie? Fangio? Moore? One of them is going to be tension there. And the guy in the middle is a yes man.
So are you saying there's no leader? There's no leadership in the coaching staff then?
Well, it's a
or are there too many leaders or too many voices?
You got co-coaches. Moore and Fangio.
Co-coaches.
All right. They're co-coaches. Sirianni has no power. Sirianni can't tell Moore, this is what you're going to do. When Sirianni, in the last game, the playoff game, couldn't figure out how to coach his offense enough to prevent 10 blitzers to come in on Hurts unmolested. That guy, we know, doesn't know what he's doing. He acknowledged it the first year he was here when he immediately gave up play calling duties. He said to Steichen, you're better at it, you do it. He's acknowledging his own weakness. Now he's going to assert himself? This guy was brought in, Moore was brought in to save Sirianni's job.
Man, co-coaches. So we have 3 head football coaches now in the Philadelphia Eagle locker room now. You've got Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio, and Nick Sirianni, and they all three. Actually, the other 2 got more power than Nick.
No, Michael Clay is the 3rd. He's got special teams. Sirianni has nothing.
Who's got more power? Wait, Angelo, who's got more power? Big Dom or Nick?
Equal. Equal. Now, what I saw, though, is apparently Jalen Hurts stole Big Dom's cart and he was riding around training camp. See, I still read this stuff. I know what's going on.
I know you do.
So maybe Big Dom, if Big Dom gets angry at Hurts, maybe Big Dom is going to assert more power than Sirianni has. I don't know.
How many times did you interview Jeffrey Lurie when you were doing mornings?
Once. 20, almost 30 years ago.
When he first got the team.
First time he comes in, he just buys the team. He's still making money. We're doing a radiothon for Eagles Fly for Leukemia. It's the last year because he was creating his own charity at that point. And he showed up at Suburban Station. We were doing a remote broadcast from there to raise money for the radiothon. And he showed up and he did 45 minutes. Questions, people coming through the train station, one-on-one asking the owner questions. I can remember after he left, I went, never in the history of this city have we seen fans have this kind of access to the owner of a franchise. This is great. And at the big moment there, he goes, these fans of mine, they're my compadres. It was so beautiful, right? Then like 2 or 3 weeks later, I ripped them for something. Over. I was put on, like Richard Nixon used to have, I was on the enemies list. Right? Within a couple of years, he was writing letters to Paul Tagliabue to get me booted off the WIP morning show staff because I was so critical and they were the flagship station. It's all in the book. It's all in the Bible.
Holy cow.
It's all in there. It's all in there.
Get to that. Paul Tagliabue. He wrote Roselle.
He wrote that Paul Tagliabue said, before our next big contract with CBS comes up, CBS owned us then. Could you please take a look at what they're doing down here at WIP Radio, our flagship? Here's the irony of the story there. So he's so upset with us. He's trying to get me fired, right? Then the next time it comes up for bid, the negotiations for the rights to the Eagles, WIP outbid all the other people. I don't know what they bid. And boy, he couldn't wait to take that high bid.
They're paying 3.5 now. They're paying 3.5 now to broadcast Eagle games.
Yes. The broadcast, we broadcast Eagle games for most of the years I was there. And I ripped him every time he needed to be ripped, I ripped him. And I wouldn't stop now either. I would have that thing he did. Let me tell you how different sports radio is in Philadelphia now than it was 18 months ago when I was there. That thing he did where his team tanked the way they did, they fell apart, they choked at the end of the season. And the next day he went to St. Martin to buy a new yacht. That would be stuck to him now like a leech. I would have made that, I would have called him Eagles owner and yachtsman Jeff Lurie, right? I would have made it part of his identity, because what he did was utter disrespect for the fan base. It was saying, I know you're in pain, but I'm a billionaire and I deserve another yacht. And I'm telling you, Dan, the fact that that played out without a ripple, without anybody making a big thing of it, tells you how different sports radio is in Philadelphia than it was 2 years ago.
Robin Leach, Jeffrey Lurie. I never thought I'd make the correlation between the two.
Joe Conklin bit. Zeppelin.
Hey, okay, I have to ask this. What did you make of the fact that Howard Eskin survived it and he's back doing shows on the air? He basically told people, shut the hell up. I'm not answering anything. I thought it was Gardner Johnson behind a microphone saying, hey, I'm not answering any of this. They put him on and it just walked away from the whole thing. And I got to think that the political maybe landscape, Angelo kind of covered it up. Nobody really made any Me Too kind of stuff, but just your take on how he survived that, where most people 95% of the time do not survive that.
Whether he survives it totally is still to be said. He hasn't been in public exposed to the fan base. That will happen when he's on the sideline for an Eagles game. I hope they don't. That's not the place for what's going on, but I've seen the fan base when they are target someone, and I don't know what they're going to do behind the bench. I know this. They handled it wrong. It will not go away. They could have made it go away. They didn't. They ran away from the story. You don't do that in Philadelphia. It's that simple. Dan, they disrespected the city and their own fan base and their listener base when they said, we're not going to talk about our scandal, but we'll talk about every other one. The next time there's an issue in sports, and there are always issues in sports. Always. You're going to talk about those. Is that okay? Can I call on that? Is that all right? I just can't talk about when it's yours. When it's you. Well, you're a hypocrite, and you're not doing what's right by the fans of Philadelphia. You got to talk about it.
You know, Angelo, I've always believed that a sports talk show is everything. It's not just about sports. Things come up good and bad. I mean, you and I, especially you, obviously. I mean, I've been on the air 35 years. I mean, have I had all great moments? No. Have I had great moments? I've had it all. But to me, they're experience so that I can convey, hey, I did this and I said this a couple of years back. This was the wrong thing to do. Hey, but guess what? I understood what the problem is. You come from a place of experience, so your audience will look at you and go, well, at least he's coming from a place of failure, success, what have you. You can't come from a place of hiding under a desk.
No. Now, it's funny. A year ago, right around this time a year ago, my old friend Keith Jones, who became president of the Flyers, invited me to go to a special meeting of all the front office people from the Flyers. And Danny Briere, the GM, was there. Dan Helferty, the owner of the franchise, he was there from Comcast. They were all there. And I'm doing this little thing, and I go, the next time anybody in this organization, when asked the question by the media, says no comment, replace those words with screw you, because that's what you're saying to your fan base. They're paying money. They've got an emotional investment in your team, and you're not giving them the information you want for your own privacy, your own reasons. It's usually not good enough. If it's a pending legal case, if there's something going on, I get it, right? But 90% of the time, no comment is screw you. So we got about 3 minutes later, Dan, right? Something comes up, and somebody asks a question of Briere, and Briere looks around in the room and he goes, no comment. It was the funniest thing. He was just playing around, right?
Yeah.
It was like, I got it. Now, I don't know if they're more open now. I don't know how. All I could tell you is this. the more open you are in the city of Philadelphia, the more you make your private life public, the more they will embrace you. And the fact that they can't understand that, I know who runs that station. Rod Lakin runs the station at WIP.
Yep.
And Rod Lakin understands you have to talk about this stuff. I know David Yagaroff, who's above him. I think he gets it too. So I know that this decision came from the legal side, not the on-air side, because the lawyers will say, don't talk. You know why the lawyers will say that, Dan? Because they don't know a damn thing about how to do a radio show. That's why. So they'll always do what they tell any client. Oh, no, they'll talk to them. The cops bring you in, they'll talk to them. It's not the same thing. You got to talk to them in Philadelphia.
Two last comments here. Mike Missinelli going back on the air. You know, just your take on him. I know, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's a former Inquirer guy like yourself. And also he started at IP, been on a long time. Joe Bell, who whatever you think of him, obviously did not run that station. He's actually run the Fanatic into the toilet. Now they got new management, new general manager, new market manager in there. So I get it. Just Mike going back on the air. What's your take on him?
I love Mike. I have tremendous respect for him. He's a phenomenal talk show host. All I can tell you is I've talked to him a number of times since I wouldn't have done it. And the reason I wouldn't have done it is they disrespected him. Yeah, they're going to get rid of him. Fine. Let him have a last show. Let him say goodbye. He had a good tenure there at that station. Don't do that. He did a lot of podcast work, did a lot of stuff a couple of years ago. If Mike wants to write his last chapter by going back there, more power to him. I wouldn't have done it because I don't like the way they've run that station anymore than I like the decisions that my old station made about Howard Eskin, right? Mike deserves better than that. Mike is a big, big time sports talker in our city, and you don't treat a guy like that. Now, I'm amazed that he agreed to do that, let alone be on middays when he is. If there's a prime time radio guy in Philadelphia, it's Mike Missinelli. He's doing middays over there. They should reassess their lineup. Let's look at it that way. And I love John Kincaid. I'm not saying he should take mornings, all right? I'm saying Mike should have at least gotten his afternoon show back.
Absolutely. I got to ask you this here, man, and maybe, you know, you don't, you know, maybe you're going to give me a Daniel Briere, no comment on this, but, you know, when I listened to you when I was a kid and I used to go down to Wildwood, and that WIP was just off the charts with great personalities, comments. I mean, sometimes you would go, whoa, wow, they're saying that. It was so compelling. WIP today, 18 months. Is it a completely different station than it was when you were there than it is right now? Are you disappointed? Do you like it? How do you look at that station?
I'm definitely disappointed that they have not given Rhea Hughes the role on the morning show that I gave her. She's phenomenal. She's incredible. Her takes are fascinating and interesting. She has the best.
Why do you think that is, Angelo?
They didn't want it to sound the same. It's the same reason that so many of the callers that were regulars on my show are not welcome on their show, like Eagle Shirley and Austin Arnie and the people that were characters on the show. I get that. When I took over for Brookie, I didn't want it to sound like Tom Brookshire's show. You know, it has to be different, but you also have to assess what you're looking at. Look, the whole sports media market in Philadelphia now is softer than it has been in the 40 years I've lived here. It's so soft now. The media coverage, the newspaper coverage, with the exception of Jeff McClain and Marcus Hayes, there's a few guys still hanging on, but most of them now are just, what do you want me to write? What can I say that will please you? That kind of stuff. It's not the way I did it. But Dan, the truth is, the real truth, and I'm coming to terms with this myself, is they're not doing it wrong. If I was still there, I would be doing it wrong because I'm not even sure the fan base wants what you heard when you were going to Wildwood before. I don't know. They're giving ovations to players who hit 220, like Trey Turner last year, stuff like that. The fan base is different now. I represent an era that's no longer there.
What's
right?
that? Telling the truth?
You are looking here. I'm a T-Rex.
Yeah,
I'm a
but Angelo,
dinosaur.
telling the truth
And
to people, telling the truth to
yeah,
people is never a time capsule. It's not
it's a
something that you
great
put
point.
in a time capsule. My problem with today's listener or today's lawyers and shit, it to me, this comes down to most people today would rather be lied to than told the truth. But the truth to me
Yeah.
is sometimes what makes it that's what's compelling in sports talk. Hey, you and me have been wrong more than we've been right on the air, but we had an opinion about it. That's debate. Debate's gone. I mean, I find this to be a problem with the truth more so than just you and me being called
Great way to
fossils.
look at it. I never looked at it that way. But I guess their truth is different than our truth. They will look at this Eagles team and they will go, wow,
It's a Super Bowl
Sirianni's
team, and
having
you
an
and I
amazing
look at the defense and go, dude, your defense is going to get you killed this year in every game you're in. They don't see
yeah.
that. And I'm going like,
That's what I would think. But they're not going to say that. They're not, it's not good business to do that, Dan. If I were to come on the air and say the things I've said on your show, on my own show, I would go 5-win team. Yeah, there'd be a lot of fun debate. They'd be calling me names. They'd be angry at me. I've also downplayed how good I think the Phillies are this year. It's easier for me to do in retirement. It was when I was there every day. I still would have done it. I'm not sure I would have done it as loudly as I've done it with you because I don't have a horse in the race anymore. I'm out to pasture to
don't you
extend the
think they've
metaphor. I'm out to pasture.
disrespected don't you think they've
Truth
disrespected
is
your
important.
legacy?
You're right.
Hey, Angelo, don't you think they've disrespected your legacy there at that morning
No,
that morning
not at
shed?
all. Not at all. I don't believe that for a second. I think when you leave, Dan, your legacy leaves with you. They're not going to go to bring everybody in and go, all right, we want you to be, all of you, we need you to be prima donnas the way Cataldi was when he was here. We need you to ignore our advice and our directives and do whatever the hell you want. Nobody's doing that. When I left, there was a quote in the paper 2 weeks later. Oh, finally, there's no more eggshells on the floor. You know, like they had to walk on eggshells when I was there because I was an 800-pound gorilla. No, if I were them, I would say, all right, that jerk is gone now. Let's try to behave ourselves.
I don't have a problem with King
For
Kong
me.
being in the
No,
room.
believe me, I'm not guilt-free here. I'm not guilt-free here. I was hard to handle on and off the air. Don't
Hey, I don't
it's
have
all
a
in the
problem.
book. Wow, check it out.
I don't have a problem with King Kong in the room, man. I don't. My final, I want to do this last one here. I'm watching Embiid at the Olympics. Angelo, he sucks so bad in Paris. Dude, I mean, when I watch the rest of those players and I watch him play, I'm like watching Jabbar running up the floor. I mean, it just doesn't fit. Maybe I know the court's different and I get it all. The rules are a little bit different, but man, does he look out of place next to those stars on the floor.
I don't know if there's a first or a second game out there when he couldn't practice the day before because of an illness. And I said to my wife, I went, nobody who's 30 years old gets sick as much as Joel Embiid, especially when there's a practice schedule. You know, I'm telling you, Dan, it's even a little more evident when you see it in a different setting. He's got the talent. He's smart. I don't think he's got the heart. Yep. I still think he's lacking the heart. And I think you're going to see that. And I think they'll win the gold medal. They're so much better than everybody else. Come on. LeBron has amazed me. He still looks like he's got a lot left. I was surprised.
He does. 39, and he's the best player on the floor. It's crazy.
Isn't it? It's amazing to see.
Yep.
He seems to want it more than the other guys. I know he wants it more than Embiid.
You were right about the Phillies bullpen once again melting down as it always has. This goes back post Charlie Manuel. That organization, for whatever reason, man, they got away from building in the minor league system down in Clearwater, those arms that they used to put out there for the bullpen. I mean, this is another bullpen issue, man. I mean, you can't win a World Series with a guy hitting 212 and 38 homers. I don't think you can, man.
No. Dan, I said this, you know, this wasn't popular, but I knew I was right. I've watched a lot of baseball this year, and that team was profiting from the single easiest schedule I had ever seen the first half of the year. The past 3 weeks, they played good teams, and they've gotten their asses kicked. They've lost 6 series in a row, something like that. And it's like, they're not as good as you think they are. They're not bad. Wheeler is a stud. I love Wheeler, all right? The kid they got from the Angels looks like he might be a nice addition as a closer. But they got a lot of streaky hitters. And you're right, there's a lot of bullpen guys you can't trust. No, I don't see it. I don't see it this year either. I wish I did, but I don't. I hope I'm wrong. I would have been wrong many times before.
Yeah. I'm gonna send your wife, because I don't know if she has this. I'm gonna send her a recipe for pizza frite. I don't know do you like pizza frite?
Yes, but if you said meatball, I was going to say I'm never coming back on.
No. Everyone
is the finest meatball ever made.
Oh my God, my grandma, who had this same kind of recipe, and I went over to, unfortunately, my wife, she's not Italian, which is all right, but you know, that's what my family says. She's like, honey, you're not Italian, that's all right. So her mom made a meatball, and I'm like, I'm not eating that. And she goes like this, you have to. I go, I'm not eating that. She goes, you have to. So I eat this American meatball thing, and I go, I'm eating it. And she goes, isn't it good? I go, oh, hey, just like Subway. It tastes like, she's like, Subway. I go, it's like a Subway meatball. I go, I'm going to show you what real meatballs are, man. I'll show you what a fried meatball looks like. Angelo, folks, the book, it's also in audio. The blog, I went there today. I saw it. He's destroying the media people. He's telling you the truth about Jalen Hurts. It's all on.
And I ripped the Olympics. I killed the Olympics.
Over what issue?
Oh, well, I covered them in '88, and I got to see it from up close. It's corrupt, it's outrageous, and it's phony TV show. If you're going to watch it, understand, for every champion out there, there's 10 people whose dreams are getting trounced by bureaucracy.
Boy, I'll tell you this, Angelo, and I'll say this to you about what's going on, what I don't like what NBC's doing. So NBC's not addressing the whole boxing mess, and for them not addressing that, my issue with that whole thing is this. Here's the problem you have. If a sprinter comes up with high testosterone, let's just go there. He's automatically suspended from that event, just like Ben Johnson when you were talking about being suspended. Well, if you're either one thing, you're either a dude or you're a juicer. Pick one. They're both illegal, but you'll be okay with a political agenda to ruin a dream. And then you have Title IX that's out there. Why have women's sports? I mean, I don't like the politics that are being implemented here, that atrocious open that they had, like thinking that they were just going to take a crap on one religion like that. I mean, there's so many good things about the Olympics, but I'll tell you, Angelo, from 36 to 72 to what we're seeing right now, that organization sometimes doesn't get it.
It's not what you're seeing on TV. I would not even agree with you that there's a lot of great going on in the Olympics. What's going on is the TV show. That's what it is. It's not real. It's fake.
Whatever happened to when you and me were watching like Munich, or we were watching Montreal, and it was live, and you were watching live drama, not canned drama. It's manufactured drama. The Olympics are no longer what you and I used to watch that made that thing. You know, who got me into broadcasting was Jim McKay. He lived next door to me, and he was one of my Sean McManus I grew up with, and I grew up with the McManuses, Jim McKay. And Jim McKay never called an NFL game. He never called an NBA game. He never called a Major League Baseball World Series. He called the Olympics and Wide World, and that's what made him. And I think he'd be spinning in his grave if he saw what the Olympics has turned into right now.
He would. He would. It wasn't all that pure then. If you remember 1972, the Russians, or what happened there, it was bad then too. It goes all the way back. It's been corrupt for half a century, all right? Maybe even before that. All I know is I got to cover it for a month in Korea in 1988.
So you were there for Ben Johnson.
I was there for all of that. I was there when they stole a kid's dream. I had spent a lot of time with this boxer, Anthony Hembrick,
Oh,
and it turned out to be a good pro. But it was his whole dream. His whole life was to be on the Olympic team. He was in the Army, he's part of the Army team. He went there, and his coach told him what time to be at the ring, and he showed up 12 minutes late, and he was facing a South Korean boxer, and the South Korean boxer, it was in South Korea, and they told the kid, "You're screwed. You're done.
You're DQ'd."
They DQ'd him, and it destroyed the kid. I was there for it, and they could have so easily rescheduled the bout, and they said no. This kid would have beaten the South Korean kid. South Korean kid moves on, and I watched it, and I watched what they did to that kid, and I saw what happened at the Karoli Ranch because I covered women's gymnastics, and I saw the corruptness of what was going on there from the inside. A lot of this is bad. I'm just telling you.
Angelo, could you talk like this? Could you talk like this and bring these topics up on WIP today? When
no, I wouldn't have brought them up then.
Would you be called into the PD's office if you're talking about the transgender boxing?
No one gives a damn about the Olympics. It's football. The training camp's open. I wouldn't be talking about the Olympics for 1 second. Not for 1 second.
Even in a political year.
I talk right now. Here's what I would do. Formula right now. 80% Eagles, 20% Phillies. Right? Soon 100% Eagles. The Eagles run this city and this state, and it will never be any different. If I was talking the Olympics soon, I would be talking to myself because I wouldn't have a job.
Angelo, you had a job for all those years, and you were sensational, and you are officially my mentor here. Folks, get the book. You can go to the blog. His opinion still speaks. He doesn't think so. But every time I see a quote from Angelo, it's all over the internet. Angelo said this. Angelo said that. Now he's been reduced to being a meatball maker. Remember, pasta vazul or gabardines. Tell your wife. Hey, thank you, Angelo. I appreciate it.
I gotta go roll some more meatballs, Danny. Take care, my friend.
Angelo. All right, hit the like button. Where in the world are we at? See, you can't get shit like that anywhere else but here, man. You guys are all not all of you, man. Some of you guys are snowflakes. You couldn't handle the bullshit. That's why, man, JAKIB Sports, how you doing? We're going to reset here. How about the Mets? They any good? The Mets. Slagger, stop talking Mets and Jets. They're nobodies. Okay? We're going to reset. 233 likes. We are almost at 250. Andreas, Angelo's a meatball eater. What's wrong with that? You racist. Hey, Andreas, you're a racist. You're an anti-meatball hater. How dare you, you racist? You hate meatball eaters? I'm a meatball eater. You're a racist, Andreas. How dare you? And you even had a vowel at the end of your name. What is going on? Andreas, I'm so disappointed in you. Oh, thank you, Barb. Of course. Love me a meatball. Anti-dentite. Look at her pulling a Seinfeld reference. How you doing? How you doing? Hey, look at JM, man. JM's been here giving me shit for 4 hours. That's why I'd never in a million years will JM ever be thrown off our program. That ain't happening. Not happening. I could swim with meatballs if the gravy's right. Oh, stop doing that. When you guys start talking the gravy like that, okay, makes my mouth water. Between my aunt and my wife's meatballs, kind of fits a little bit. Seals knows vowels. Hey, oh. Hey, so wait a minute. Is the Is the Ayuk trade real? Sills would open a sports bar and be the chef if he wasn't in sports. Oh, it'd be an Italian restaurant too, by the way. All Italian grub. Pizza, thin crust. Okay. I didn't mean that was. I'm kidding, Andres. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.